This is a quick and dirty how-to on setting up Vue.js with Firebase. So this is assuming that you already have Node set up and also Vue CLI. So first thing is we'll need to create a project. Just to keep things simple, I'm going to go with manual just so I can only select the necessary features. We'll go with version 3x preview. Keep everything in package.json. And no, we are not saving this for the future project. Alright, now that we're all set, let's open this up in Sublime. I'll be using Sublime as my editor. So here's our setup, package.json, just the minimum things that's needed to run this project. And now let's try and run this project to see, let's try and serve it up. Alright, things seems to be working fine. Let's see if we have any errors. Console is clear, so we're good to go. The first thing that we'll need is set up a couple packages. I'm going to stop this. We'll set up these two packages that's needed. The first one will be Firebase. So npm install Firebase. Save. Alright, and the next one will be Firebase UI. Okay, let's just verify to make sure that package.json has been updated. Okay, so yep, we see Firebase and Firebase UI, so we're all set there. The next thing we'll do is open up or create a Firebase database. So create a project. We'll just name it Vue Firebase. Accept the terms. No, not at this time. We don't need Google Analytics. Okay, alright, just continue. So we've got our project set up. The thing that we'll need to do is create an app. So for us, in this test, we're creating a web app. And then we're just going to name it web app. We don't need Firebase hosting at this time, but if you want to set it up, you can do that. Register the app. And then now we have the config information that we need later. Next thing we'll have to do is create a Firebase config file. So we're going to do that in the source folder. We're going to name it Firebase config.js. And in here, this is where we put the config file that we saw earlier after we set up our Firebase project. So export const Firebase config, and then we'll just get this information here. This is all we need. Alright, that's all set. The next thing we'll need to do is open up main.js, and here we'll need to import Firebase. Firebase app. So we're gonna need the Firebase config first before we can initialize it. Firebase config, getting it from that firebase-config.js file. So JS like so. And we'll also need to import Firebase Firestore, which is in Firebase. And now we'll need to initialize Firebase. So Firebase dot initialize app Firebase config. And we'll need export db. Let's see, I think this looks pretty good. Oh, before that we'll need to create some data in here. So continue to console. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is create set up Cloud Firestore. So you'll see a couple options here. Real-time database, that's their old the old version, I believe. I haven't used it too much, but what you want to do is set up Cloud Firestore. So once you get here, create database. Just to keep things simple, we'll go with start in test mode. You can always change the permissions later. I'm going to keep everything as is. Alright, so we're going to create a collection. I'm just going to name it messages. We'll use auto ID, message. So we'll just keep things simple and then we'll save it. So now we have a collection of messages, and then we've got one document here with a message. Need to go back to first let's see if this is still working. npm run served. We're just going to make sure that there aren't any errors showing up. Okay. Alright, so Firebase config is not defined. Looks like a typo. Alright, now we're all good. No errors. And the first thing we'll need to see is if it's actually connecting to Firebase. Let's see what shows up when we console.log db. Okay, so we're getting a bunch of stuff here. It looks like we're connecting, so it's actually working. We're getting information about the Firebase Firestore database. And how I figured this out is by actually going through the methods. There are documentations on how to do this, but just to keep things simple, I'm just going to type things out. Alright, so we're actually getting the document with the message that we entered earlier. So that's the quick and simple way to connect to Firebase from your Vue project, and this is pretty much the basic code that you need just to get the document data.